Alright, friends, we've done it. Made it to average well-being 65. I think getting average well-being 65 is like the closest thing as 100%ing a game, and I'm very happy with it. I want to give you a tour of my map because it was pretty fun to build. I spent a lot of hours in here, and yeah, it's kind of interesting, so let's check it out. So I live in Portland, Oregon, so I modeled my map off of Portland. I've got a handful of districts. Right here I'm in the middle of the map. I'm on the west side of the river, but of course there's an east side of the river too, just like in Portland. We've got a west side and east side. We've got the West Hills, although these hills don't seem quite as hilly anymore, but when you started the game, you know, 3 or 4 tiers up was like kind of intimidating. But now it's nothing. So I got the West Hills. Even further off to the west, I've got the coastal range. Then to the south, we have the fertile Willamette Valley. And then nothing else really corresponds. I guess this giant reservoir could be considered a Bull Run if you want to keep the geographic comparison going. But yeah, let's take a tour. So you'll notice that the FPS is just truly terrible. It's truly terrible because I have, I don't know, in between 800 to 1,000 beavers at any given moment. You'll notice that I have up here in the top left 24 real beavers, 0 children, and I don't have any space for children. I don't want any space for children because the children dilute my well-being score, so I pretty much want exactly 24 adults at all time living happily inside of their little community. So all of the beavers are living in the west side, but you will notice that the beavers have 0 hours of working time every day. These beavers don't work, all right? These beavers are served. These beavers are served by robots, formerly known as robots. So that's pretty great. Yeah, they take all of their time focused on their well-being, like riding the carousel or enjoying a nice mud bath or checking out some of these monuments, maybe gorging, maybe doing some research. I guess I could turn one of these back on, but no one's gonna actually be doing anything when they're working 0 hours a day. I guess I'll make them work 1 hour a day, but I've already unlocked all the research you need. I've got over 100K in research ready to go. So let's take a tour. So we already kind of looked at some of the districts. Something notable about this map is that 100. Sorry, let's not do that first. Let's go look at all the corners. Every corner of the map pretty much has some activity. I guess I'm not in the deep corner, but pretty much the corner in the southeast. We've got a giant wind farm, and that's also connected to this small wind farm. And you can see that I'm outputting 32,000 horsepower of the 17,000 horsepower in demand. If I go all the way north, you know, you can see I've got this giant reservoir. Technically it's not power, but it is a lot of energy, right? That's just a huge amount of potential energy stored up there. So this dam is, geez, it's pretty dark. Maybe let's get that skipped on to daytime. We'll come back to that later when it's brightened up. If I go to the northeast section of the map, once again I have another giant wind farm. Oh, the FPS is so bad. It pretty much just drops to 3 when you have this many beavers. I don't need to have this many beavers. I've chosen to have this many beavers. As a Factorio player, I just kept building and building and making things more awesome. I don't know how people happily play this game with so many fewer beavers. Although you can see I have a bunch of places turned off because I just don't, you know, I ramped up my gameplay with real beavers, and then as I got to robot times, I slowly started to replace real beavers with robots, and then remove real beavers as we went. Anyway, so that's 3 corners, and then of course in the southeast corner, we also have some power generation. So the map is almost entirely used, right? Which is pretty wild. I also have a mega battery wall, which you can see has 40,000 horsepower horses built up. So what's this? and all of these power networks are connected to each other. There's only one network, so there's power across the whole city. So that's pretty fun. Let's take a peek and dive into some of the resources. You can see that I have 2.1k antidote. That's this little guy. That's what the beavers get sick from water. The beavers don't get sick from water anymore, so antidote is pretty worthless to me at this point. I'm going to show you how I mitigate bad water right now. In fact, let's just go over there. It's nighttime and look at the reservoir again. So here's the giant reservoir. You can see it's overflowing here. That's totally fine and good. I actually expect it to be overflowing there. All of the floodgates are all set at half height downstream such that overflow is desired. Some areas in the map and different tier levels in the map actually expect or rely on that overflow to occur at that half raised level. So that's good. When I'm having a bad water event, this will actually drop no water. And I use, oops, sorry about that. I use just this little guy right here to kind of feed the entire map, or a drought, simply because it just keeps everything hydrated, although power is a little bit lower in that time. And then here's my bad water mitigation. So when there's a bad water situation, I go ahead and I raise this floodgate, I drop this one, and I just send all the bad water off the map. Pretty easy. This guy also is a nice little reservoir, which should probably go ahead and close. That way, this little tree grove gets some agua. You'll notice that I have just a ton of different tree areas, and that is because I have maple trees everywhere across this map. Just total non-stop maple. Maple is critical because maple is used in making not extract. Extract plus maple equals, what's this one? Let's just remember what it is. Catalyst. And catalyst is used for robots. As you can see, I've got over 800 robots, so catalyzing is actually quite important. And I actually don't have very much catalyst right now. I probably need to up my catalyst production. Yeah, those robots are just chugging this catalyst down. Additionally, I've got not enough punch cards. The robots also consume punch cards. The punch cards and catalysts increase their durability and their speed, which is nice. Don't worry about this overflow. It will self-heal. Just a minute. Anyway, we're not going to get hung up on that. So, yeah, what were we doing? We were talking numbers. We looked at antidote, and then we talked about bad water, how the bad water is just completely mitigated. There's some other bad water sources, though. So here's a pretty common bad water source on this map. By pretty common, I mean it's fixed in the map. And that powers some of these wheels down here. And I used to have some defense against this bad water, so my beavers could mine this, but these bots aren't affected by bad water, so they're just getting scrap metal unaffected. Yeah, you can see that this is all protected, this mine, because that used to be powered by real beavers, and a pump to get that bad water out. Who cares? Just get rid of it. We're not using it anymore. And then let's go talk about the other bad water. Oops, too far. So there's kind of this big mountain, and this is what I call my east side again. East Portland here. I guess this makes this Mount Tabor for all you Portlanders. Here I've got this bad water rig, so I've actually capped the bad water source, and I fill up these little buckets here of bad water, and that bad water is pretty much only used for producing extract, and extract is pretty important for making catalyst, as we just saw, but also it's important for dynamite. Yeah, when you do dual depth or triple depth dynamite, I believe a little bit of extract is used, so that's pretty clutch. All right, so we've talked about some of the big places. Let's actually just do a review of the districts. Oops, let's close that. We've got the west side, we've got the coast range. Let's go up and talk about Meaty Metals. Meaty Metals was a district I made in early game. All of these houses are turned off. And there was previously, right over here in the Meaty Metals district, uh, a bunch of scrap. That scrap is long gone. The beavers mined that and got rid of it. I since replaced it with a maple grove, which again I use for just getting tons of maple syrup. The fact that my maple syrup up here actually isn't pegged is a little worrisome. Not too worrisome though. And it's called Meaty Metals because, well, I produce all of my metals here. I've got a bunch of smelters, got large piles of metal blocks. Of course, I use those. I always have this storage next to the smelters set to supply, and that's because, hey man, this place doesn't need metal. It's all the places that are making stuff that need metal. So primarily, that's people making robots or robot parts that actually need metal blocks. I don't do any sort of production here. All of the robot production is off in the West Hills. And that is this giant tower right here. Let's just look at it for a second. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 by 3, so 24 different robot part producing plants. I don't think these ones at the top, I don't think their productivity is very high. Yeah, awful. Pretty bad, only 28% productive. Looks like I might be short on just getting these guys gears and planks. Frankly, I don't really care because I've got 66 extra beavers. I'm overproducing right now. I could probably shut some down and be more efficient. Whatever. I haven't crunched the numbers. But that's okay. In case there's a crisis, it's good to have an abundance of beavers on supply if some of the other ones run out of biofuel. Or there's an event that I just didn't mitigate, and yeah, something in the supply chain gets mixed up, you might need an abundance of beavers to help, ship them to the problem site to get things taken care of. So all of my beaver production happens over here. These ones, also pretty low productivity. Again, don't really mind. I could probably shut a couple of these down just to kind of focus the energy on a few of the ones that matter. But anyway, heading back to Meaty Metals. Meaty Metals, it's kind of boring now. We've got a ton of tree. I don't know why I have birch. There's no reason to have birch in here. Seems like that was almost probably a misplant. I'm also very surprised to see this dance hall getting beavers. This is incorrectly placed. This is technically on the west side, but I meant to have this dance hall with Meaty Metals. Next to Meaty Metals is Mega Carrot. That's this district. And hopefully it's obvious why it's called Mega Carrot. We've got lots of carrots. Loads of carrots. More carrots than anyone would ever need. It's just total non-stop carrots. As you can see, my carrot supply is jam-packed. These farmhouses only have... Geez, I could probably pause this farmhouse. We really don't need that many carrots anymore. But all of this is set up, again, to support 800 beavers, not 800 robots. It's just not perfectly balanced. If I want to bring the beavers back and have a billion happy beavers, that's cool too. It's all about this number, right? Getting that 65. 20,000 water, plenty of water. They don't work at all. They've got roofs over their heads, so shelter and sleep are good. I've got showers everywhere. I've got carrots, sunflower seeds, potatoes, chestnuts, bread, crackers, pastries, everything. That's kind of not terribly interesting. So that's metals. What other stuff is interesting here? What other stuff is interesting? We'll jump district to district. West side was really just a diverse set of resources, so kind of everything was here in small quantities. My first couple times playing this game, my beavers all died of dehydration, so out of paranoia, I just had way too much water. And that was also helpful when I was setting up new districts to be able to configure my haulers, which I have plentiful of, to send water to the new districts as I was growing outward. But West side is now kind of got a bunch of jobs that just no one works, and entertainments, and research. You can see I've got monuments overlapping with a mass amount of surface area, as well as a lot of the decoration. So, yeah, not terribly interesting here. Let's go to another district. West side, Coast Range. Again, we kind of already talked about Coast Range. It's mainly doing power, a little bit of trees, and I also do, it's like punch cards over here. I don't think I do paper over here, but I probably should do paper to help power the punch cards. As you can see, my mega punch card storage is looking a little light, but we are doing good on gears. Gears are just a major bottleneck resource. Early, it's pretty much throughout the entire game. I also just finished taking down a giant scrap tower up here. Also, the Coast Range was one of my primary spatterdock productions. Now you hardly need me to take care of 24 beavers, but big whoop. Meaty, we just visited it. The east side. The east side was kind of a latent spatterdock and wheat production. There was a point in the game where I just needed total non-stop bread. So now I'm just, you know, bread is just booming. Even in this district, 1.2k. And then I've just got triple storages of common foods, which will never get consumed. We already looked at Mega Carrot. We already looked at West Hills. We've got Dandyland down here. Dandyland is what I internally call the Willamette Valley, just because I've got so many groves. I've got giant maple grove. You know, I've got a nice pine grove here, and another maple grove over here. You can see my giant maple syrup tanks. Looks like I got some ordnance to detonate. Don't know what I was doing with that. Sure, I had some interesting idea. So let's see what happens after the Willamette Valley. Wheaties! Don't ever forget Wheaties. Wheaties used to grow wheat, but as I transitioned to robots, I did get rid of all the wheat, replace it all with maple trees for syrup. Wheaties also used to do all of my wheat flour for making the bread. And I would generally be baking bread in the west side, but I've pretty much turned off all my bakeries. Let's see, 2 more districts. District 9. District 9 was kind of this weird little district I had at the very tippy top of the map. The only reason I built it was because Meaty Metals had about 150 beavers in it, and those guys just like would have to sprint very far. The roads would all turn red. Actually, I can probably still show that. You can see the roads are red in Meaty Metals, far away from the district center. So the district center is right there. So it's kind of a long journey to traverse the giant reservoir, climb up into the hills, and you know, there was just a lot of work that needed to be done over here. So we did a lot of potatoes, a little bit of wheat, a lot of berries, and of course dirt. I used dirt and end game only for just making it easier to expand my tree groves. You know, actually I'm gonna go look at one of those. It's kind of cool. In the south here, you can kind of see that a lot of these are kind of squarish, and nothing in the game, well, in a kind of a voxel style game, everything is squarish. But, you know, macro textures on the map, right? I clearly made these islands to increase my tree growing area. That includes a lot of this space, and it actually includes this mega area over here. Just on the east of the mountain, I kind of flattened and made a massive wood and tapping area. It's kind of hard to tell, or it was kind of hard to tell, but you can see that the tapper's shack and the, let's see, what are these things called? Foresters really do overlap with the same areas. The fact that they haven't cut any of this down, I don't know. It's probably because I just don't have any more storage for wood in this area. Maybe I'll plop down the underwater, or sorry, an underground storage. Just to make some space. It's good, just in case I need to make a path. Some fresh path. Cool. Let's configure it to logs, and we're good to go. These robots will just get to work. Okay, so this is technically on the east side. It's kind of a long run, but for robots who all they need to do is just drink biofuel and they keep working. Big whoop. East side looks a little quirky, as do a lot of the things with pauses on it, just because I deleted some infrastructure from when it was Beaver mode, not robot mode. And then I have this one final district that's real important. This is called Hell. Hell is a very key role here. I got blown up on Reddit for killing a bunch of beavers. I'm sorry. To get this, to get to a very high rating, I had to cull off this over production of beavers. So as I would swap roles with robot or beaver to robot, I then of course also needed to shut down housing, and of course you can only shut down housing in discrete chunks. It's not like a contiguous slider. And so, during that time, new beavers would reproduce, right? And so you've got new beavers coming online. Unfortunately, I had to kind of send a lot of the babies over here. And anyway, so I would use it to just send overproduction of beavers here, and then I would have them pump bad water to expedite their death. They're fake, okay? They're not real beavers. I would never do that to a beaver. I went to Oregon State. Beavers are mascot. I love the beavers, okay? But let's get real. It's all about this pricing. So that's a tour. Hope you enjoyed it. 100%.